All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, which will be exploring the disconnect and alignment between marketers and consumers. I am Emma Borkoff, the VP of Marketing here at Remesh. I think we're going to give everyone a minute or so to go to join, and then we will kick things off. So, very excited to have Sarah and Bill here today. All right. Maybe I'll just go. I never know what to do with this. Like, need some
We got
like
plenty of
weird
people in
music.
here.
I'm
We can
like,
probably
cool.
kick it off.
This is fun. Okay, great. I'll just kick it off. So very excited to have our speakers here today. We have Sarah Levinger, who is a psychology-based creative strategist and the founder of Tether Insights, which is a market research company that translates complex consumer behavior into actionable growth-driving strategies. She's been trusted by brands like Hexclad and Fabletics. Oh, Fabletics. Oh. And she co-hosts the Brain Driven Brands podcast. Yeah, very excited to have you here, Sarah. Very fun person. I've like worked with her in the past, and fantastic person. And we have Bill Cullo, who is a senior qualitative researcher on the Remesh team that has been helping clients carry out research on the Remesh platform for the past 7 years. Great. Really excited to get started. So, yeah, I'll throw it over to you, Sarah.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm super excited to just chat all the stuff that I found during this particular project that we've been working on. For everybody here who doesn't know what we're kind of presenting today, I am a marketer in the D2C space. I work with e-commerce brands in particular, and we are constantly looking for ways to kind of get more information about what our customers want, what they need most, what their current belief systems are, and what they want, obviously, from an e-commerce brand so that we can start to kind of align better with them. When I first started kind of chatting with the team here at Remesh, I was trying to kind of understand not just like what the consumers believed, but also what marketers believed. And that in particular was mostly because I couldn't quite get a read. I could always get more customer information, but I couldn't get a read on marketers in particular because the belief systems of both people really do kind of affect each other. So we kind of had a project going in the works, and Emma came in and was like, "Do you want to try out our platform? Do you want to see kind of how this could possibly help you over in D2C?" And when I saw it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this would be perfect for this particular project." Trying to figure out what's the disconnect between belief systems between consumers and marketers. So I'm going to walk you through all of the data in here, everything we found. We actually ran two different surveys, one to the marketers and one to the consumers. Super, super interesting stuff. The data out of here was just eye-opening. But before I do that, I do want to bring Bill in to talk about Remesh in particular, obviously, what the platform is, how they get people to take these surveys, what the kind of overall summary of the platform is, and then we'll get to the data. So, Bill, can you give us kind of an overview? That would
Yeah,
be great.
absolutely. So, at its most basic level, Remesh is an AI-powered, human-driven platform that enables live text-based conversations with any sort of targeted stakeholder group sample, and that could be a sample that's either large or small. Really, what Remesh is, though, it captures both the numbers and the nuance. Then it uses AI to help organize the responses, spot patterns, and turn all that into really usable insights very, very quickly.
I love it. Very simple. Thank you. Thank you. I always like to have the team give the pitch for things because I'm just like, I don't want to butcher it. Fantastic. Bill did a lovely job. For myself, I have used quite a lot of these different platforms just to get like cold traffic data. Cold traffic meaning just like people who are not attached to the brand. Like I said, most marketers get a lot of information mostly from their post-purchase surveys, their quizzes, all these different things. Toughest part about that is it's what we call like warm traffic. It's people who interact with the brand a lot. This is lovely because I can get ideas and I can get insights from people who may not have heard of the brands that I'm working with. So I'm going to open this up. We're going to start to look at the data that we found from this particular survey. I'll talk about kind of the structure of it and how we set this up. In general, though, one thing I do want to call out is we do have Q&A at the end, a little bit of time for this. If you have any questions about like the data, the platform, or possibly even just like why I set it up this way, those type of things, you can always drop it in the chat, and then we'll obviously just leave time at the end so that we can answer some questions. So When I first started trying to understand what I wanted to do with this particular survey, like I said, I'm a marketer, I'm a consultant. So my job is typically to come into the teams with D2C brands and help them understand here's what your consumers believe, and here's what the internal team believes, and here's the disconnect between the two. Drafting a survey towards that is difficult and challenging because I can ask anybody anything, but if it doesn't align with questions that we're asking ourselves, it's really hard to get the connection between the two. So I set up two different surveys, one for the marketers, people that were in my industry, or really anybody that was just in marketing in general, and then one for the consumers. The questions that we were asking are almost identical. And I say almost because we did have to obviously reframe them just a little bit so that they fit with the customer type that we were going after. But some of the data that we found is super fascinating. So, platform wise, really interesting stuff in here. Typically, from what I can see, we have lots of demographic information that we can go through, which is super helpful if I'm trying to understand generations or different genders, those type of things. Breakdowns of data in there. We'll give a little bit of instructions, and I love this about Remesh of just it actually walked people through what they were about to do because some of the survey platforms I've taken don't tell people at all what's coming, what's in the survey, what they can expect. I super appreciated this part. Then we got into the actual data itself. So I'm going to start with question 8 here just because this is where the core of the survey started. And the first question we asked was when you write marketing content for your audience, which style of content do you usually write in towards the marketers? On the opposite side, for the consumers, we asked almost the exact same question, right? When a brand is trying to connect with you, which communication style do you want them to use? Big differences in here. So, most marketers, it seems like, are going after warm, empathetic, like they're trying to be a little bit of a therapist. Lots of straightforward, though. They're trying to present the facts and then be a little bit of fun, entertaining. On the consumer side, we've got a lot of people saying, I would prefer if the brands were just straightforward. Please just be straight with me. Give me the facts. Try not to be too buddy buddy with me. Make it fun and entertaining, but I don't need a therapist. I was like blown away by this one because my brands are not going to love this. Mostly because what we're doing on the opposite side in D2C is putting a lot of effort into trying to be someone's friend, someone's confidant. Consumers don't seem like they need it to be able to convert. So, interesting stuff in here. I love this question one. Now, this was interesting as we moved into this like question 2-ish. I had to kind of sit here and like look at all of the stuff that Remesh provides because I was like, holy cow, this is amazing data. To understand it though, there's a couple different things. Here's all the qualitative stuff that we found. We have a couple different like benchmarks that we could put on these particular pieces of data. I actually found this way more helpful over here though, because I was trying to understand when it comes to qualitative data, I either have to read each one of them individually, I have to code them into word clouds, and then I have to pull out the data. Like it's just a mess. Or I can come over here and it will give me all of these different things without having to do much, which is awesome. So, a couple different things that I thought was really interesting. Topic prevalence, interesting things in here about talking about common things. So for the marketers, 69% of these 96 responses that we had on the qualitative side are talking about the same thing, which I was like, ooh, marketers have some deep bias in here. If we go over to the consumer side for the same question and look at topic prevalence, almost ish the same, 66% of all the responses we got. So it seems like obviously people are kind of repeating themes over and over. One of the things that I wanted to see was, okay, if they're talking a lot about the same things, what are they talking about? So these clusters, all the way at the back here, these thematic clusters, really fascinating. So we've got group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, but it will also tell you what the overall kind of topic was. For the marketers, they talked a lot about the fact that when it comes to making brands feel trustworthy, they think it's about kind of like the products, the experience, the markets. Sounds like trust is a little bit in here. Being consistent is how you get people to trust you. What the brand feels like, honesty. That's what the brands kind of think builds trust with customers. On the opposite side, if we look at these thematic clusters, kind of the same thing in your own words, what makes a brand feel trustworthy to you? Product came out a lot, which I was like, oh, that's fascinating. Transparency, trust, a little bit of like just customer language in here. We've got a lot of product though. The top two groups mentioned product as something that's very big in the trust building world. Claims. I found this really interesting because the marketers didn't mention the claims that they were making. Honesty and transparency are the only things that kind of match between the consumers and the marketers. So I love this type of stuff. Like when I go through and I'm trying to understand what do the consumers need versus what do the marketers believe, we can see that we're aligned on some things, but there's a lot of things that I don't know that the marketers understand yet. So this was incredibly helpful. Feel free to jump in, Bill, if you have something you want to highlight too.
Doing great so far. I
Oh,
really like your approach.
it's so interesting. Like when I come in here and looked at it, I was like, what? This is fascinating. Okay, question three. What's something behind like brands in your industry? What do they something brands in your industry do in their messaging that you think turns customers off? Now, this was similar qualitative. Looking at thematic clusters in here, claims came up, which I'm like, hey, the consumers also said that that's a big piece of their trust issues with the brands is claims. Fake, over promising things. This is really interesting. 52% in this group. Lots of people agree that like things are overhyped. We think that customers don't like it when we overhype things. Over offering and promises in here. If we go to the customer side, and take a look at what something brands do in their messaging that completely turns you off and look at the clusters here. Product came up again, which I found really interesting. Now, I need to go through and Bill might have some good insight to this. How can I figure out what about products they're saying? And I'm sure we could
So
read, obviously.
yeah,
But yeah.
well, you see that search bar right there? So this is right
Oh,
above the
yes.
verbatims. Go ahead and put that
Ooh.
there, or you can just see it pop up. This will pull up every mention of product,
Oh, this is lovely.
right? So you
Ooh,
can then discern what people are saying. Moreover,
interesting.
Sarah, if you
Hmm.
go to that little stick figure over on the left-hand column, if you will,
Yep.
sorry, next to one of these specific verbatims,
Oh, here.
you can, is it not popping up? Why is it not popping up? Go to the next one and I'll
Oh,
stop.
oh, okay.
Yeah. This
Ooh,
has a view thing, but that's the demographic of the person who wrote that
I
response,
see.
right? So
Let me
we'd
see if
have
I
to
can find a
view
bigger one.
out. I'm sorry, but you can
Yeah,
sort of
sorry,
figure
it
out
might be
what I'm
my
talking about
screen.
here. No, that's okay. You know, the other thing, Sarah, I really thought was interesting, and
Interesting.
you've sort of laid this out, but one of the things that I'm always looking for is consistency. There is no
Mm-hmm.
rule for people who take research, particularly consumers, to be consistent. I was struck by the fact that consumers are pretty consistent about what
Consistent.
they like and don't like throughout, and that is noteworthy.
Yes. Yep. I would agree 100%. This is super helpful too, that like male, millennial, Gen Y, US consumer. I
Exactly.
also love, if I remember correctly, this percent agree.
Mhm.
This one has to do, correct me if I'm wrong, with something about how people are agreeing or disagreeing with other people's opinions. Is that correct?
Exactly right. So if you think
Yeah.
about the sequence of events here that occurs in an ask question, Uh, participant would read the question, what something brands do, and they'd read the question, think about it,
Mm-hmm.
write their response, and then as soon as they submit their response, they are then prompted with a series
Mm.
of other participants' responses and given the opportunity in two
Mm.
different voting
Like
exercises,
vote.
either a pair to pair, which of these two
Interesting.
do you agree with more, or do you think they're similar, or you don't like either,
Mm-hmm.
and then prompted with a singular, and do you agree or disagree? So that is what we're really seeing. And what it is doing, unlike, say, other quant studies where you ask people an open-ended question, they provide the response, and it's just almost a data dump. This is intended to show that there is some ability for to identify consensus, right? We're
Yes.
democratizing opinion
I love
here.
it. It's so interesting because this came up at the top and I was like, what?
Yeah,
65% of people agree that like we don't like it when you put down other companies' products, which is so interesting because that was a key tactic, honestly, for e-commerce for a very long time and other brands as well.
absolutely. And that,
Kind of
again,
that.
that is a recurring theme. That thread of not putting down
Mm.
others is a recurring theme. We could see that throughout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's really interesting that this came up and people agreed with it. They really enjoyed that take.
Yeah,
This is why I'm like, oh, this platform is super interesting just to browse around and see what we can see. Because, yeah, for these guys, it was just the feel of it, jargon, using like content buzzwords, which is similar to what the consumers said. But overall, a large portion of them were like, we just don't like it when you put down other products. Fascinating stuff. Okay, we'll keep going here. I want to keep track of time. Question 11. This one in particular, I developed mostly because I wanted to kind of understand. how well people aligned. How much do you think we actually get each other? So this question of how well do you think brands understand what you actually want from them? This was for the consumers. We got a little bit of this somewhat, like we think what they know, and then a little bit of not very well. Very few were like brands get me. They understand what I want. They understand what I need. Few of these were just not at all.
Hey,
On the
Sarah,
yeah,
if hopefully this doesn't impact your flow,
yep.
do you see over on the right-hand column it reads
Hmm.
view by toward the
Oh
top
yes.
there, and
Hmm.
you'll see sort of a table on the right-hand side. Go ahead and click that. Perfect.
Mm.
And then you'll see the top two, bottom two box. Flip those on to on right now. There you go. And that one. And
Ah.
then just for kicks, again, this
Hmm.
is what's really cool about the platform is it enables you to sort of look at this stuff quickly if you have some thoughts. Okay, so we got
Mm.
top box, bottom box. You can
Yep.
click on these custom segments to see where there are differences among the, right? There you
Oh,
go.
interesting. Well, and this is the type of stuff that I love. Thank you for showing me that because I was playing with this other the other day and I was like, I'm not entirely sure
Yeah,
which one I should click on. Top two, bottom two, though, this is very helpful of like
very
what
helpful.
is, yeah,
Exactly.
what's at the top and what's at the bottom. Just give me kind of the basis of it. This is actually what I wanted to see between like men and women. What is it that people are feeling? Do women actually feel like brands understand them more? Do men feel that way?
Yep,
This is really interesting. For the people who said that, yes, brands get me, we have 66% of females saying, yes, that's true. Only 60% of males think
exactly.
that. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, the poor men feel like nobody gets them.
So the net diff is
Interesting.
significant. I purposely did not sort of pour over this data just so
Mm,
we could sort of respond or react in real time.
yes,
Go
this
ahead
is
and
really interesting.
unclick male, female, and maybe
Okay.
start going through real quickly boomers and Gen X, just that you don't want to
Yeah.
overload, but you can sort of
Ooh,
see,
this is
there you
interesting.
go. So you have a complete reversal from the overall, right?
Yep.
60% of boomers say,
Yep.
yeah, they don't get it. That is
That's
probably
so
not going to be the
interesting.
case as we get, well, younger generations.
Oh, yeah. Gen X is fascinating. They
There you
okay, they
go.
really think brands are
Yeah.
like getting it pretty well.
So again, I
Millennials,
keep on
70%.
reiterating this point, but the
Gen
platform
Z.
is built to make these sorts of questions to be able to answer them quickly.
Mm. Well, and I love the side of data. Like I was not very good at math in school, but I got really into data when I got older because I love the statistical side of things. I'm like,
Yeah,
this is fascinating. Boomers feel very left behind at this moment in
exactly.
time by everybody. Not so much younger generations though. Gen X
No.
feels okay about it. Millennials are like, we're
Hmm.
doing good.
Yep,
Gen Zers still up there. So yeah, very good opportunity for anybody that's marketing to boomers right now to kind of go and at least put some effort into hearing that cohort a little bit better. Interesting.
exactly.
This is so fascinating. Okay. Hopefully everybody's as into this as I am because I'm like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. All right. So, next question that we were asking, which I think this is the one we just did. I want to make sure that I'm on the right questions. Here we go. So, tell us about the last time a brand's marketing made you kind of stop and actually pay attention. What was it about it? And again, I kind of default to these kind of clusters in here. Product, advertising came up a couple times, commercials, those type of things. Let me go back here. Here we go. So tell us about a piece of marketing you created that really landed with customers. This will be really interesting. Campaign came up 8 times. Creation, simple branding. It's interesting because it almost seems like, and I'll have to go through and do what we did the last time, honestly, is like take a look at some of these qualitative answers in here. Brands catch my attention when they have good quality product photos. So this is why I love this feature because I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, brand has good product. That's the reason why people like this. This person's talking about photos, not the product, the photo. A couple other people are talking about like honest feedback, use products that are interesting to me. Oh, so many interesting things in
Yeah.
here that I could go into, but a
You know what,
little
Sarah?
bit of a disconnect. Yeah, go ahead.
One more thing, just to and if you see where it reads group by on the
Oh,
right-hand side,
mhm.
that's a drop down.
Oh, yes.
Hit thematic clusters there. All right.
Ooh, oh, I
So
love this.
it defaults to 4 or 5
Mm.
groups, meaning that it
Yes.
is more inclusive or exclusive.
Mm.
You could take that slider and say I want to break it down to 2, right? Or make it bigger. But then you
Yeah.
could see how these things change.
Interesting. Okay, yeah.
So that's
Woo.
just something that I will oftentimes experiment
Mm.
with. I will go to
This is
the
so
smallest
interesting.
number of
Yep.
groups. first to see if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't,
Let me
then
go
I
back
sort
down
of
to this one.
get larger and allow it to
Oh,
make sense out of this. So if you wanted to get back
yeah,
to where you were, go back to the group by, drop down, and then right and click none. There you go.
that's right.
Then you right
Okay.
back.
Well, and this is the most interesting part, is I think, especially for any sort of marketer who's trying to understand, like, what should I do? Like, how should I market? How do we build this brand? It comes down to, again, how do you segment out your data? Because I've often seen a lot of e-commerce brands get data on their customers and just by natural way of being human, the way that they interpreted the data was not quite accurate, and they went off on a bunny trail and ended up doing something completely wrong because they just couldn't get this kind of clarity on things. So I'm like, oh, this is super helpful going into these clusters and trying to understand them more. So yes. Okay. All right, so let's move on because I want to be conscious of time. We'll go into, let's see, question 13. We have just a few more in here because I want to show you guys like one of the other things that I really, really enjoyed for this particular platform, which I'll talk about in just a second. But it's one of the easiest ways, I think, to kind of drill down all this information because I asked quite a few questions. And this was honestly not one of the bigger surveys that I've done. 21 is on the lower side. Sometimes I'm working with surveys that have like 50, 60 questions, and it gets really difficult to sift through all this data. So we'll get to that like super fun thing in a second. But messaging. So when a brand's message feels like off, tone deaf, what's usually the reason? And this one in particular, I actually preset to this like just to look at the boomers and look at all the generations in a second. But in general, overall, people have like very strong feelings about this. If the brand feels tone deaf, it kind of just feels too salesy, too pushy, doesn't really reflect how real people speak, and then it's trying too hard to be relatable. It just seems like the consumers are like, you're trying too hard. You're just trying way too hard, and we don't really like it. For the brands, when a message feels like off or tone deaf, they think it's salesy, doesn't sound like how real people talk, and a little less trying too hard. But here was the interesting part is it's similar, like people can tell a little bit. I think consumers are like, we just don't like how hard you try. You need to calm down, marketers. Seems like it's almost the same though, right? Which I kind of loved that this was aligned for the marketers and the consumers, with the exception of trying too hard. Everything else, we can tell what's wrong. We just need to kind of solve it. The reason I kind of love this though is because going down to the consumer groups here, the differences in generations look really interesting. Boomers apparently think we're way too pushy in marketing. Gen Xers think we're way too like forward. Stop trying to be my friend. Like you need to just calm down. Millennials are different though. They had like an almost split. Like it feels pushy and you're trying too hard. And then Gen Zers came in with kind of like similar kind of a feeling. So I love the custom segments. Those are really interesting. Okay. Next question. Love this that we have kind of like a preemptive. We're going to ask about AI. Hopefully, people were going to be okay with that because some people are sensitive to AI things. I love, though, this particular group, this cohort was really open with kind of how they felt, which I appreciated. So, this question: how often can you tell a brand's content was written by AI? Kind of sometimes to always ish. The marketers was really interesting. Just how often do you actually use AI? Sometimes to always. So marketers are using it, and consumers are like, yeah, I can tell that this is, I can usually tell from this. We had a follow-up question to this. How do you feel when you could tell a brand used AI? It almost seems like people are split. They're not quite sure how they feel about it. Some people are okay. Some people are kind of bothered. Quite a few of them are like, I don't really trust it when it happens. And then a decent amount of people are like, it really just puts me off entirely. I just don't like it. The marketers, though, how do you think your customers feel about this? Lots of marketers think they're okay with it. I was like, oh no, these poor marketers, like they don't know yet. Some people think they're mildly bothered, and then a lot of people are like, it probably reduces trust. Now, I find this really interesting because in D2C and e-commerce, we know that people are probably a little bit put off by it, but we do it anyways. So there's a fine line in AI coming, I think, just based upon the fact that consumers are like, I don't know that I like this. Not quite sure. We'll have to see what happens. Marketers may have to shift back to like using it more for process and admin and not so much content creation, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
And
Okay.
you know, Sarah, what I love about that is
Mm,
this ability, we all probably have a sense of what we're likely to see, You know,
Yes. So
not
true.
everything is shocking. In fact, that would be unfortunate if things were shocking. There are definitely going to be some surprises. But what I
Hmm.
love about what we're doing here is we're now quantifying what we already suspected, right? So we're
Yes.
sort of putting some context behind that. It makes it, and that information gives people, the ability to make better
Hmm.
decisions,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's what I was trying to do with this one is I was like, just selfishly for me, I want to
exactly.
know what decision should I make? How should I like converse with the brands that I do consulting for and tell them people are not sure how they feel about it, so it's better to err on the side of don't use it as much right now until they get used to it. So yes. Interesting stuff happening in there. Interesting. Okay. Couple more things that I want to go through, and then I obviously want to leave a little bit of time open. This one in particular, though, I might actually show analysis of things. So, this question, what's your biggest concern about the growing use of AI in marketing? We talked a little bit about this just recently, but lots of really interesting groups and things that came out of this one. On the consumer side, from what I could tell from these clusters, product, people, I feel like company, there's like some very deep themes. I kind of want to show a little bit of this particular piece of the platform because this was really helpful. So when I landed on this question, I was like, oh, I really wish I could ask these consumers or like get something more out of this. So I want to see, Bill, if we can kind of like do a demonstration of Remy. So the way I interpret it, Remy's basically like a research partner. It can connect to basically anything that you have inside these surveys that where you're running, and it will help you pull out insights without having to just distill down, especially if you're looking for something very specific.
Yeah.
So, do you have some prompts that I could use to take a look at this stuff? Doesn't have to be about this AI one,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah,
This was
yeah.
just interesting,
So,
but yeah.
I do, and I'll tell you
Okay.
what, why don't, and it's going to be simple, but I
Hmm.
think that would be, a good example. If you don't mind, can I send this in the chat? Is that possible? What happens if I do that,
Yes.
Emma? Can I do that? It's not a big deal. I'll just send that prompt.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
down.
Okay. So this is an example of what I do with the,
Oh, wait, that went to the hosts and panelists. Let me.
Oh, that's okay. I think I can copy paste it.
oh, you can? Perfect.
Yep. I should be able
Perfect.
to.
So I
I'll book
I, I
some.
spend a good deal of time going through this. I love going through the results, just as you've been doing here, Sarah. And I sort of develop my own sort of perspective on this, and I look at particular data points, and then I sort of fashion, hey, what about this in a hypothesis, right? So in this case, what I'm looking at, or what this prompt is in response to, is an area that we've covered in this discussion today. But I think about only 7% of the consumers interviewed say the brands understand them very well.
Yeah.
Conversely, well over a third of the marketers say we're very confident that we understand our customers. So the hypothesis is, how are marketers overconfident about how well they understand the consumers? I mean, we could
Mm,
tell from the just from the quant mirror question that yes, there is a disconnect there. But the prompt that
hmm.
I just sent you was more about the open-ended responses. So in other words, I know that the data shows a large gap between marketers' confidence and consumers feeling truly understood, but I want to understand from the open-ended responses that people provide, does it support that hypothesis that marketers, in
Yeah.
fact, do overestimate how well they understand
There we go.
consumers? Yes, and it's still thinking. So it is
Hmm.
thinking about this. And so that's one of the really cool things about this. Yes, you can ask Remy or talk to your data
Hmm.
feature. Oh, geez, it wouldn't even allow me to. I'm sorry, Sarah. That was completely anticipated.
That's okay. That's okay.
But
This
what
is
I
what I
did
love
want to
about
say
it.
real quickly is that sure, you can ask it, give me the highlights about what
Mm,
participants said about question 4, and it will
yeah.
give you that. What we've just done here is we've taken 2 studies. I've asked it to synthesize, right? Not just give me a
Mm,
simple regurgitation of what people said, but I asked it a complex question. Does this do the open-ended responses confirm that marketers are overconfident? So in this case, the
hmm.
hypothesis is greatly accepted. And I could just keep on doing this all day. I get the sense you could probably do that all day
Yes,
as well.
just ask Remy.
Right.
Well, somebody had a question like, how do we get more information on why the boomers feel the way that they do? Can we understand a little bit more than that? Remy,
Absolutely.
I was
Yeah,
like, ooh, we could ask
exactly.
Remy. This is the
Exactly.
oh, and I love this because it's so helpful, honestly, to have a little bit of analysis systems on the back end that are not just Claude, Gemini, chat. Like I use those constantly on the daily, but sometimes just the stuff that they bring back, I'm like, ooh, that like it feels like it should be right, but there just feels something not quite right
Yeah.
about it. So this
Well,
is lovely.
well, this is obviously this is specific and unique to
Yeah.
the remesh. So those
Yep.
numbers, the sources behind it, if you go ahead and just click one of those,
Mm.
you'll sort of see where does it find that
Ooh,
finding, right? So
yes. Ooh,
it
I
will
love it.
tell you where all that exists.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, and this is super interesting too because sources are critically important for me.
Yes,
Mostly because like my entire like brand consultancy was built off of like sharing psychology knowledge and studies and all these different things. So over time, I got really accustomed to making sure I know which sources I'm citing because for this reason, I'm trying to be accurate. I don't have to be right all the time,
right.
but I do need to be pretty accurate from where the data comes from. So
Well,
this is
and honestly, this is one of those things that it's important to sort of keep a hand on the wheel,
mm-hmm.
which is to say that I want to know where it's drawing that conclusion from.
Yeah,
And I want
I
to make
agree.
sure that that's sort of consistent with my thinking. I could dismiss it altogether if I wanted to, but I do want to understand where it's drawing these conclusions from. So that
Yes,
is
super
this sort of
helpful.
being able to check your work, if you will. You'll see if you want to get out, there's sort of a door over. There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Well, and this is lovely too, I think, because something you showed me at the very beginning is where it was pulling from. So this was something I
exactly.
didn't have set up at the very beginning, but Bill kind of walked me through it. It was super easy, honestly. There's basically a folder, on the start page, where it'll ask, where do you want to pull this knowledge from? And the more surveys we conduct, the more I can probably pull from over time. And this
Absolutely.
is lovely. So then I have
More
all of my
times than not,
information
it's
in one
I'm looking at
place.
one survey at a time, but
Yeah,
this
yeah,
was a
yeah.
particular, and again, it illustrates the point that it's not just simple regurgitation of Q4, but
Yes.
rather look at Q4 here and Q8 here, think
Yes.
about this,
Think
and
about
then
them
really
together.
answer a complex question. So,
I love it. I love it. So yes, I mean, I'm going to probably sit here with Remy today and just be like, "What did you see in here?"
exactly.
Because some of this, just for my own use case, I can use for content. Like I could take this and put it out there and be like, "Look what we found! This really interesting study. All these different things." A lot of this, though, I can also just take back to the brands that I work with and say, "Listen, the consumers are skeptical, and they're a little bit like not feeling like we're being very honest. And there's lots of ways that we can solve that." But you need to know. You have to have the information first. So this is lovely. Okay, so back to our survey here. We'll go through a couple more. Hopefully, you have time to get through all of these. Let's see. This one in particular, like I said, I was kind of looking at more thematic clusters, but this was kind of the end of our AI stuff. It really does seem like people are kind of not loving AI yet. That may change, but we'll see as we kind of move forward in time and history. So this one we were asking people to rank from most to least influential in driving customers to your brand. I find these so hard to read, and I've always had a hard time with this. So, like, I may have Bill help me decipher this once and for all because I ran these on a couple different platforms, and I want to know. We have one, two, three, four, and five. Is there a way to drill this down farther so that
So
we
I
can?
usually keep it right here. I try to keep
Okay.
this rank thing very simple. I want to understand first what is the one that is predominantly viewed as the number one rank. You can see that there,
Yeah.
the percentage there. And then,
Yep.
moreover, what I am interested in, what is the separation or variance between that one and the second one? Yeah,
Oh.
there's a lot of
Okay.
things here, but and it is intimidating, I'll be frank, but I try to keep this very simple. In fact, this rank really works out really well because what it
Mm.
shows, and I'm sorry, I can't quite read what is the number one?
Uh,
Um,
the number one is word
yeah,
of mouth, and the
so
last one is
word of mouth.
ChatGPT.
So you can see there's no
hmm
comparison, right? There is
Yes, word of
wide
mouth, big,
gap,
big. Hmm
way further, and then conversely, you can see that the rank for right exactly. So
Yes,
this
chat.
this
Okay, interesting.
ranks don't always come out so cleanly. So this one is a
Okay,
little better
it's good to
than
know.
normal. Yeah.
Well, and I found it really interesting because when I was looking at these two questions side by side, on the customer side, it's almost identical.
Yes.
Customers are like, word of mouth is
Yeah.
very big
Area of
for me.
alignment.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's so cool.
yes. Yep. Little, it's almost exactly the same with a little bit of reviews, obviously being a little bit more of an effect for these customer types, but both of them are very much like ChatGPT, AI, not involved in the conversation.
Yeah.
Basically, word of mouth, a little bit of like reviews, and then marketing. So yeah, not surprising. This one is actually more validating than anything else. So this I
Makes
can
sense.
come back and be like, brands, just keep doing it. Keep up with that good work. Okay, next one on here. Where do you think your customers go first when researching your type of product? Search engines were really interesting because I didn't think marketers thought that the search engine was going to be a big deal, but they still think it's kind of an important thing. Social media, TikTok was next, friends or family, and then AI at the very, very bottom here. Interestingly enough, consumers were pretty definitive. Search engines, 64%. Now, I want to kind of take a look at the custom segments because I think it's going to be different depending on the generation. But after that, we have friends and family and then social media. When researching new products, I was like, what? I thought for sure people just go to social media to like take a look and browse around. People are still predominantly going to Google. Who knew? So if we take a look at like how this kind of breaks down, it seems like boomers are really going to Google or asking family members. Gen X is predominantly Google, a little less asking family and friends. Millennials are interesting. I didn't expect this.
Did not
They're
see that.
asking friends and family less and less and less. They really just kind of go search for stuff on their own when they need to find things. And then Gen Z is Google. I was like, what? I get so confused by this data sometimes because I'm like, it's breaking down my own biases. I thought for sure everybody just kind of goes and browses on like TikTok, Instagram, those type of things. But I think now I'm formulating the hypothesis that possibly consumers are using social media as a way to decide which brand. It's more like evaluative behavior and not exploratory behavior. People are really just researching on Google still. I'd have to get some more data on this. Now I'm like, I'm fascinated. Okay, couple more in here. So one thing you wish you understood better about your customers. This one I might drill down into. So we've got a little bit of this like service dislike coming up a couple times, expectations. What makes them move from this is really interesting. Marketers don't quite know why people purchase things, it seems like. And I've seen this in a couple other places as well. If we look at like what they're talking about product wise, um, interesting. Yeah, marketers just don't seem to know. Why do people purchase? We don't know what they want. What are their concerns? What are they trying to achieve? Like, ugh. Some of this is like hard because I hear this and I feel it from the marketer's side that we're just like kind of guessing constantly as to what consumers want.
You know what, Sarah?
Um, yeah.
This is probably ill-advised, but I think you and I can handle it. I like to
Okay.
scroll down because sometimes as important as what people
Mm.
do say is what they don't say. So in other words,
Oh,
if you
true.
scroll down and you start looking at these are things that people did not agree on, right? So what
Mm.
are those things that were mentioned but
Yes.
not widely agreed upon, meaning
Misinformation.
they're not accepted. Now, again, I have no idea. This could be, a chase, but
Mm.
the platform is really good at sort of identifying what they're not saying. So,
Yeah.
in other words, it's not relevant here, but it's an easy example. Let's say that we had
Yes.
a
So
product we were
true.
looking at, and we were concerned whether or not safety was a particular driving
Mm.
criteria that people. The fact that safety is mentioned down here but not agreed upon would give
Yeah.
us the confidence to be able to say, nah, safety is not a
Yeah.
problem here,
Safety is not
right?
a
So that
problem.
notion of both understanding what
So
people are
true.
saying
Yeah.
as well as what they are not saying.
Oh, and it's so interesting when you take a look at it because on the opposite side, we ask the same questions to the consumers.
Yeah.
What do you wish brands understood? And their themes are gonna be different, right? So we've got product consumer, like wish they understood the economy we're living in. Look at this. 64% of the people are like, I wish you understood that I can't afford everything. Like, I'm tired. I don't have extra income to spend on these things. Which again, this is about economy. This is about where the country is going. Like, there's a lot that plays into this. But isn't it fascinating that marketers are still kind of worried about we don't know what they want? How do we tailor products to them? Consumers are like, I wish you understood that I just can't afford this. Like, yeah, no product is perfect. Please just tell me the truth. Like, be honest with me. I mean, it's just clear as day. Customers are just like, listen, this is the reality of what I'm living in, and I just need brands to understand. I just can't take any more hyped messaging because it's hard. Like it's a hard time of the life to live in. So that's really interesting. All the way down at the bottom, I want to see what the consumers said. If we go to the very, very bottom, I want to be spoken to like a person, like an adult. Not a lot of people agreeing with this, like adult versus child. There's a couple of them in here
Yeah,
spoken to. So they're not super worried about. I mean, some of the people in here sounds like they're a little bit sensitive to like, I feel like you're disrespecting me or like
yes,
it just doesn't sound right. I don't love it. Don't treat me like I'm stupid. People are more concerned as we rise all the way up, buying an experience, showing some appreciation. Yeah, it's almost like connect with me, right?
exactly.
Yeah, lots of connection requests in here. Oh, this is such a good source. Now I'm like, I need to drill down in there and see. Okay. Let's see. That one was about, I think this is basically the end of it, honestly, which is perfect. It's perfect time to do some questions. Really interesting stuff. I so appreciate you guys letting me use the platform because now I'm just like, now I need to go down into this and really see what is it that people are saying deep into this. And Remy's going to help with that a lot, honestly, to do some analysis. But is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? This is a good survey. Super interesting stuff. Any other questions you guys can pop it into the chat. But yes, Emma, I'll let you guys kind of do the closeout. This was super fascinating stuff. I appreciate you guys letting me just dive into it because I have so much to take away. It's gonna be great.
Great. And just so everyone knows, we're going to be sharing a report around this either later this week or early next. So we're really excited to see that. Let me see. Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask them. Let me see. I have a question. Let's see, maybe okay, this person's asking like what would be your recommendations as a marketer to be running to like collecting this kind of data? Like how often do you do that with your
Mm,
clients? And like what would you
that's a good
say?
question.
Yeah, I think they're asking. I mean,
Yeah.
I also as a marketer is like it's something we see all the time. It's just like things, the way people view the market 6 months ago is not the same, especially with AI, the way
Oh
things
my
like people are
gosh.
doing things and finding things is constantly changing. So
Yes,
yeah, I guess
yes, yes.
what would that recommendation be of like how often you're kind of checking in with your customers and in what ways would you recommend for your
Yeah.
clients? And yeah, and also Bill can also chime in on that as well, like what he sees with our clients as well.
I mean, preferably, I would love to get this data all the time. That would be my preference is like once a week I could go study some people. I know that's not like super actionable for a lot of people. I try and get this kind of data once a quarter because about every 12 weeks we're changing our behavior seasonally anyways. If we get close to like Black Friday or if we're coming up on like Mother's Day, those type of things. So I try and get good qualitative, big, large scale data at least once a quarter. If I'm doing deep dives though about trying to understand an industry, trying to understand like consumers, how things have changed, I'll try and do a pretty big survey like this at least once a year. Things are changing quickly, but culture does take a minute to kind of shift. So those I'm not as concerned about getting like super deep down. But I would love to hear what Bill has to say about it. What you guys
That's
have heard.
exactly what I would say. I think there you want some amount of time to be able to allow for things to change, people to evolve. So I like that sort of cadence that you said that you stayed out here. So that would be my. Not everything works that way though, but that's my
Yeah.
preference. Yeah.
Yep. I guess it depends on application.
Great. Great. No, I think we are all set with questions. So, yeah, I just want to kind of reiterate that we'll be sending a recording out and then we'll also be sending a report out later. And yeah, I don't know if Bill or Sarah, you want to say any last little things before?
I mean, the only thing I have is that I think honestly, you have a very great platform. I'll probably become a very avid user of it because I just like the data in here. But overall, the more that we know, obviously, as marketers, the better we can do. And the consumers are very clear. And I've seen this in a couple other surveys that I've ran for a couple brands in the last couple weeks too. Consumers are very clear on what they want right now. Now we just have to go apply it. So, yep.
Actually, one house cleaning item,
Mm,
Emma, and I want to make sure that I am doing this correctly in terms of sequence, but everyone here will be receiving a follow-up email and in that email will be a link that people will be able to sign up, and that will give you full access to Remy. We conducted two studies a while back. One was about sustainability, what consumers, how they define sustainability, what's important, what's not, all those sorts of things. And then another project about loyalty programs. So you
Mhm.
would be able to have full access to those studies, just as you saw Sarah sort of click the knowledge button and go in. You'd be able to figure out that way of using Remy and how to use it. So that will be as part of the email, right? As a follow-up to this. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Well, thanks so much, Bill and Sarah, and hope
thank
everyone
you.
has a wonderful week. Bye.